This is our theory presentation by Rebecca Renwick, Twyla Olson, and Yolanda Jones. We were assigned chapters 9 through chapter 11, which talk about both the humanistic approach to psychology as well as the cognitive approach to psychology. This first section is going to be about chapter 9, the humanistic approach. These are the assumptions used by the humanistic approach to psychology. Overall, the humanistic approach sees that human nature is optimistic. There are 5 different areas in where we can see this. The first one is free will, and the humanistic approach believes that we as humans have the ability to make decisions about our own behavior. So following that, we also have conscious choice, meaning that we consciously can make our own choices, whether they are good choices or bad choices. We also have uniqueness, meaning that every individual is unique and motivated to achieve their fullest potential, and everyone's fullest potential is unique. We also have the ability to overcome difficult childhood experiences, and that we are innate to being optimistic so that we can overcome those negative emotions. And lastly, as humans, we have innate goodness, meaning that everyone has the capacity for growth and self-actualization. The theorist associated with the humanistic approach to psychology was Abraham Maslow. Maslow endured a difficult childhood, which had a contribution to his wanting to study psychology. He earned his PhD from the University of Wisconsin, and the event of Pearl Harbor inspired him to study that humans are capable of having other behaviors than the negative ones, such as hatred, prejudice, and aggression. And his most important theory that he contributed to psychology was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The influence of the approach on the field of psychology and society. Abraham Maslow first introduced Maslow's hierarchy of needs in a 1943 paper titled A Theory of Human Motivation. The hierarchy of needs looks at different ways human nature is directed and motivated. The hierarchy of needs contains 5 different levels. The lower level must be satisfied in order for another level to be met. The bottommost level is the physiological needs level, which contain air, food, water, sleep, and sex. After physiological needs are met, safety needs are then met. That contains shelter, security, and of course, safety. Both the physiological needs and safety needs are known as basic needs. In the middle of the hierarchy are psychological needs, such as belongingness needs and esteem needs. Higher needs, such as self-actualization, are less necessary for survival, while the lower needs, such as the basic needs, are necessary for survival. Once one has fully completed all 4 needs, one can reach self-actualization, meaning realizing their fullest potential and self-fulfillment. Chapter 10 also touches base on the humanistic approach to psychology. Assumptions used by the humanistic approach. Overall, Chapter 10 states that people are conscious, rational beings, not controlled by unconscious forces or past experiences. Personality is understood by individuals' own viewpoint based on their subjective experiences. It also includes positive regard, which is the need for acceptance, love, and approval. Also, conditions of worth, meaning seeing ourselves as worthy only under conditions acceptable to our parents. It also includes incongruence, which develops between self-concept and behaviors that threaten the self-image. Lastly, it includes the fully functioning person, which is the peak of psychological development. The theorist also associated with the humanistic approach to psychology was Carl Rogers. Rogers was raised in Chicago by strict religious parents that taught according to fundamentalist teachings that emphasized moral behavior and suppressing all displays of emotion. He was an undergraduate from the University of Wisconsin and earned his PhD from Teachers College of Columbia University. He became mentally ill himself and underwent therapy. After that, he emerged with a newfound ability to form deep emotional relationships with clients, which helped him establish his person-centered theory. His most important theory contributed to psychology is that people are motivated by an innate tendency to actualize, maintain, and enhance the self, called the actualization tendency. This encompasses all of our physiology and psychology needs. The influence of the approach on the field of psychology and society. Rogers contributed 4 very important ways one could look at the humanistic approach to psychology. One way was the person-centered therapy, where the client is assumed to be responsible for changing his or her personality. Another is encounter groups, where people could learn more about how they relate to and encounter one another. Another way is experience inventory, otherwise known as self-report, which investigates the nature of the client's-therapist interaction. Lastly, he introduced the Q-sort technique, which is used to quantify the self-image. Lastly, we will take a look at Chapter 11 and the cognitive approaches to psychology. Assumptions used by the cognitive approach to psychology. One assumption is that people perceive and organize their world experiences the same as scientists, by formulating hypotheses about the environment and testing them against the reality of daily life. Another assumption is that life is a construct, meaning the unique way in which a person views life and/or interprets events. Constructive alternativism allows a person to express views that are not controlled by our constructs, which allow us for revisions or to replace them with other alternatives. And lastly, anticipating life events, meaning to predict the future and understand the consequences of actions. We are not bound by past experiences or life events. The theorist associated with the cognitive approach to psychology was George Kelly. Kelly was the only child and experienced a great deal of affection from parents who were frivolous when it came to entertainment. He received a PhD from the University of Iowa in 1931 and had no interest in psychology at the time. He then joined the U.S. Navy and served as a psychologist. He was instrumental in the development of the clinical psychology profession following World War II. Kelly held numerous honored positions in the field of psychology. He also assessed personality by accepting a person's word at face value. The influence of the approach on the field of psychology and society. Kelly introduced the personal construct theory, which was internationally recognized and was the first cognitive theorist. His theory was unlike mainstream American psychology as defined by experimental psychologists. His work was criticized as it did not involve emotional aspects of motivation or emotions with regard to personality and unrepresented sampling of subjects. He introduced fixed role therapy, in which people live out the actions of what they desire as an outcome by creating self-characteristic sketches.